There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist, by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems would be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained herself.
Good evening from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and welcome to episode 126 of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. We have a special edition of Loomer Unleashed tonight. As I said before, I'm live from Washington, D.C., where I will be reporting on the military parade that is going to be hosted by President Trump this weekend, Saturday, June 14th. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers watching the show tonight. It's going to be a very busy weekend here in Washington, D.C., where we will be celebrating the 250th anniversary and birthday of the United States Army, President Trump's birthday, Flag Day, and Father's Day. There's a lot going on Capitol Hill this week, so let's just dive right into it tonight. Joining me is Charles Downs, the Loomer Unleashed D.C. correspondent, who spent the entire week with me here on Capitol Hill, confronting lawmakers and documenting the rise of these anti-Trump and anti-ICE, pro-illegal alien open borders protests all across our country. So, Charles, it's great to have you.
Oh, thanks for joining me, Laura. We do such important work on Capitol Hill, but I think this is like our country's at an inflection point, and I think this week was our more important weeks, if you want to compare everything, which really says a lot because all the great stories we've broken here in Washington.
I would say it was definitely a culmination of all of our reporting. If you've been following and watching Loomer Unleashed for the last 2 years since we've had the show, then you know that we've been documenting the ties between this red-green alliance, this red-green axis between the Marxists, the communists, and the Islamists. And it's really just come into full effect for everybody to see this week, where we have these anti-ICE and pro-illegal alien protests, riots. Really, they're not protests because there's nothing peaceful about them. The Democrats want you to think that these are peaceful protests and peaceful gatherings, but as we've seen, there are illegal aliens participating in these riots. DHS has announced the arrest of multiple illegal aliens who participated in these violent riots. And in addition to the criminal illegal aliens, we also have a lot of jihadists, people who are waving Mexican flags, ironically, while also wearing Hamas headbands and pro-Hamas and Palestinian gear, advocating for Islamic organizations. And of course, we know that all of this is being funded by not just CCP-tied organizations, but also the Muslim Brotherhood. Which brings me to our first subject of discussion tonight here on Loomer Unleashed. You know that I've been calling out the Muslim Brotherhood, terrorist organization, which is designated and recognized as a foreign terrorist organization in many countries around the world, including the Middle Eastern countries of the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, and also Saudi Arabia. And we know that President Trump recently traveled to Saudi Arabia. The UAE and Qatar for a monumental Middle Eastern trip where he was able to secure over $5 trillion in deals for our country. But something that really wasn't discussed by the media and probably should have been a focal point of this trip is kind of this elephant in the room that, you know, Qatar is supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is financing and supporting a lot of this anti-Trump activity, pro-open borders, pro-illegal alien, pro-jihadi activity here in the United States of America to destabilize our country and to have a takeover, this communist takeover, which will then usher in an Islamic takeover, an Islamic caliphate. And it's all being financed by the Muslim Brotherhood. How do we know this? Because Qatar finances the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood, of course, is a wing of the Palestinian Hamas movement. And Hamas just happens to be the militant branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. We saw the tragedy that took place 2 weeks ago in Boulder, Colorado, where Mohammed Suleiman, an Egyptian national who came into our country via Kuwait, overstayed his visa and is thus an illegal alien, also a Muslim Brotherhood terrorist, carried out a firebombing attack, seriously injuring several Jewish elderly individuals, including a Holocaust survivor. Luckily, nobody died. But we've seen the attacks on our country, not just through the communists in the streets who are supporting people like Mohammed Salman and the jihadis who are supporting the cause of Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, but also through the judicial coup. And you have judges like this judge out of Colorado who blocked the Trump administration's deportation order for Mohammed Salman's family, including his wife and his 5 children, who were also living here in the United States of America on visas. Yet they did nothing to report the fact that their father or their husband, Mohammed Salman, was planning this attack for a year. That's what we were told by authorities in the FBI and DHS, is that Mohammed Suleiman had been planning his terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado, his attack on Jewish people for over an entire year. So the question is how did the Biden administration allow for terrorists and terrorist sympathizers to overstay their visas, and how many more are there? Well, we know that 65 million illegal aliens live in our country. That's the number.
That's
and Tom Homan came on the show several days ago and explained how we have over 2 million gotaways. That's what they called them. They called them gotaways. And these are people who are either violent, very violent criminals, members of terrorist organizations. And we know that the transnational cartels and gangs have also been designated as terrorist organizations under this Trump administration. So these 2 million gotaways are either members of those transnational cartels or foreign terrorist organizations, or they are jihadist Muslim terrorists. And we had a very good discussion with Tom Homan, our Borders Czar, former ICE director, about this, and he laid it out perfectly for everybody. And the fact of the matter is that we have millions of these Iranian proxies living in our country. And it's a massive problem because, I wasn't planning on talking about this today, but as the events transpired last evening and throughout this morning, right, we are now seeing the threat of the Muslim Brotherhood and the threat of these Iranian proxies here in America in the aftermath of the Israeli strikes on Iran. And as a result, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, had to have a meeting this morning in the Situation Room, 11 a.m., to discuss direct negotiations with Iran, reminding the entire world that he gave Iran a 60-day deadline. They did not comply. Today is day 61. Israel retaliated. Israel took action. And President Trump said, see, I warned you. You should have taken a deal. You have a second chance. Maybe you'll take a deal now. And amongst those discussions and amid those discussions, Israel launched another attack on the entire Air Force and the entire meeting that took place between the top Iranian military commanders. And they were all eradicated and neutralized in an airstrike this morning by Israel, which is a good thing. Because at the end of the day, what have we witnessed over the last year? We've seen the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood. We've seen the funding of Iranian proxies and Hamas and Hezbollah who work with the Muslim Brotherhood. Many of these proxies are members of Muslim Brotherhood organizations here in the United States. They are rioting in our cities, taking over our college campuses, inciting violence against Jews, inciting violence against Christians, calling for the death of America, and calling for the assassination of President Trump. We know that the Iranians tried to plot an assassination on President Trump, and they have not released the Butler report yet from Thomas Crooks, but we now know that Thomas Crooks had a fascination with Iran. Yes. He had foreign bank accounts. He had multiple cell phones that he was using to communicate. Who was he communicating with? Was he communicating with the Iranians? How come this information has not been released?
Also, why did the drone stop working? I don't think a 17-year-old social outcast has the ability to hack Secret Service drones, but what do I know?
And so this is a massive problem, and it's why we have been calling for the designation of the Muslim Brotherhood for several years now. This was an initiative that was supposed to take place during the first Trump administration, if you recall. And I've had many conversations with Trump 45 admin officials about this and why it didn't get done, including Steve Bannon, who told me that when he was in the Trump White House during the first term, the hardest task he had and the thing that took him the most amount of time to do, and he was unsuccessful in doing this, is getting a designation for the Muslim Brotherhood. And so it was not completed. It was not carried out, even though we were promised the Muslim Brotherhood was going to be designated as a terrorist organization during the first Trump administration. And so I've spent the last 2 weeks up on Capitol Hill meeting with lawmakers, having conversations with them about the need to designate the Muslim Brotherhood. And just this week, we had a lot of developments on this. Congresswoman Nancy Mace announced that she has filed a bill. She has filed legislation to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Let's go ahead and get this up on the screen here so that you can see for yourself this article. In addition to Congresswoman Nancy Mace, we also have Democrat Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who also called on the Trump administration to investigate and also designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. And of course, we know that there's now bipartisan support for this, but there are many conflicted individuals within the Democrat Party who, for some reason, we know why, they refuse. They actually refuse to support a designation of the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. No surprise that our resident jihadist members, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, will not support the designation of the Muslim Brotherhood. And it also seemed like we caught a lot of these lawmakers by surprise when we confronted them and asked them point blank whether or not they would support designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization.
No, it was pretty remarkable. I think when you spoke with Jamie Raskin last week, Laura, and asked him to support it, member of Congress who acts so tough all the time, if y'all remember. He was the lead lawyer in the January 6th committee. Him and Liz Cheney wrote the report that basically Jack Smith used to indict President Trump. And he runs around Washington, D.C. all the time, acting like he's so tough and he can do what he wants, but he can't answer a simple question about a foreign terrorist organization. And I think that's just so telling that a member of Congress who's Jewish and that powerful, and he knows deep down these people are bad news, yet he is too scared to give an answer. Like I said, I think that's like one of the most powerful clips I think we've taken in a while, and we've taken so many.
And it's really interesting. These lawmakers are privy to private information, secret information, and they clearly understand the threat of the Muslim Brotherhood. But some of them wanted to play dumb. They wanted to pretend like they didn't know what the Muslim Brotherhood was, or that they didn't know that there was legislation introduced and created to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. And two of the individuals who pretended like they had no idea what was going on and they refused to say whether or not they would support, this is a Democrat, right? Jared Moskowitz is not a Republican. He's a Democrat, Jewish member of Congress from the state of Florida, who is calling on President Trump to designate the Muslim Brotherhood. This is a bipartisan effort. So we asked these members of Congress, Democrats, whether or not they support their Democrat colleague Jared Moskowitz's bill and his calls to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Let's go ahead and play this clip of you confronting jihadist Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib from the state of Michigan, who herself has actually been caught and exposed for inviting actual Muslim Brotherhood terrorists and Muslim Brotherhood officials to the Capitol for meetings with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar as well. So let's go ahead and play this clip.
Hey, Congresswoman Tlaib.
Are you going to the baseball game tonight?
Yeah, are we gonna hang out?
Oh, no, I'm not going. I was just, are you guys going?
Yo, but I have a Muslim Brotherhood question.
No, because nobody's going to want a ticket.
No, not this year. Hey, what do you think of your colleague Jared Moskowitz's calls to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization? Did you hear about that? Your Democrat colleague Jared Moskowitz wants to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization. You don't want to answer about Jared's call to designate the Muslim Brotherhood?
She's a real winner.
Unbelievable. And, look, not only is it damning given the fact that she is a member of Congress, but also given the fact that she's one of the few Muslim members of Congress and one of the creators of the Muslim caucus in Congress. And we know that a lot of the groups that participated in the creation of the Muslim caucus in Congress are themselves Muslim Brotherhood affiliates. And so it's really interesting just to see Rashida Tlaib, who's known to campaign at Muslim Brotherhood affiliated groups and is known to campaign and fundraise with groups that are tied to the Muslim Brotherhood and were mentioned for their support for Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood during the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial, our nation's largest terrorism trial, which took place in Texas, that she couldn't have a serious tone about this, especially in light of the terrorist attack that just took place in Boulder, Colorado, where a Muslim Brotherhood terrorist just firebombed Jews with the intent of killing them and murdering them. We actually caught up with Democrat Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who has seen the videos. He has actually seen the videos of all of his Democrat lawmakers either refusing to comment or pretending like they don't know what the Muslim Brotherhood is. And we asked him this week on Capitol Hill how he feels about his Democrat colleagues refusing to answer about whether they're going to support his calls for the Muslim Brotherhood to be designated as a terrorist organization. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
Good morning, Congressman. How are you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. So why are so many of your Democratic colleagues refusing to answer our question about whether they support your calls to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist
Well, they
organization?
may not want to talk to you, but they should support my letter to the president designating the call to designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. First of all, there are countries in the Middle East that have done this years ago. And so Ted Cruz has a bill. I'm going to probably file the same language maybe with Mayor Diaz-Balart, who has filed it in the past. So we're going to make it bipartisan, and Democrats should get on board with that.
Thank you, Congressman. And do you have any messages to any of your colleagues who might be like Hamas sympathizers or support pro-Hamas talking points in the halls of Congress?
No one should be supporting Hamas. No one should be giving a green light to the behavior we're seeing in the streets or on college campuses. Nobody should be doing that. That's my position. They shouldn't be going to rallies that are sympathizing. They shouldn't be going to seminars or groups that are linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. They got to stop all that nonsense.
Thank you.
Pretty telling conversation.
Yeah, and look, I like the fact that he's sticking up for this legislation, calling for this legislation to go through. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a dodge of a question, right?
Yeah, I would say so. We didn't want to call out Omar and Tlaib directly.
We asked what you thought about your Democrat lawmakers who don't want to support your calls to designate the Muslim Brotherhood. And he said nobody should be supporting Hamas, instead of actually naming and condemning lawmakers on his side of the aisle who are. And it goes all the way to the top of Democrat leadership. I mean, Loomer Unleashed has been out and about in Washington, D.C., across the country, documenting a lot of these Democrat protests, which are going to be taking place this week in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill, and really all across the country, it seems, in all 50 states, to protest the Trump administration and to protest ICE raids and to protest the immigration enforcement of the Trump administration. And we're going to get into that. We're going to cover a lot of the protests that are taking place so that if you and your family are out and about this weekend, you are aware of the type of chaos that is going to be coming to a city near you. Or if you're like us here in Washington, D.C., you're aware for the chaos that is about to take place here in Washington, D.C., where anti-Trump protesters are determined to crash the army parade. You're going to have all of the pro-Palestinian anti-war protesters trying to crash the army parade as well, to make a scene against the United States Army, to make a scene in support of the Palestinian people, to make a scene in support of Hamas, and to incite violence. And a lot of these people are very violent. I have some friends of mine who were going to go to the army parade this weekend, and they told me that they canceled because they're actually worried about the threat of Iranian proxies in the aftermath of these airstrikes, because we have Hezbollah and Hamas operatives in all 50 states now.
That's so
People forget that the FBI has identified ISIS in all 50 states. People forget that we have terror cells, that we have identified terror training camps in America, that we have Hamas and Hezbollah proxies living here, and they have advocates. They have advocates across the country who are in office and also running for office. We are now witnessing, just days before the mayoral primary elections in New York City,
the rise of that guy
the rise of a jihadi Muslim candidate named Zohran Mamdani, who is beating these establishment Democrats, and they're all bad, right? But I'd rather have an establishment Democrat than a total communist and jihadist who is calling for full-blown communism. I mean, he really is campaigning, and he calls himself a Democrat socialist. He's not even trying to hide it. He is running as a Democrat socialist, and he's leading in the polls right now. So there is a rise of radical communist activity here in America.
They all like align. And I was going to say, too, if y'all remember what Rashida Tlaib told me, she's basically like, oh, we need Obamacare for all. So that's kind of why the Muslim Brotherhood is all in on the left, because they're literal communists. She loves Obamacare for all. That's what she talks about every time we speak to try to get out of our questions about terrorism. She uses far left talking points to literally take your health care away. It's insane. And yes, the same with the mayoral candidate in New York. Socialist, super far left on all economic issues, wants to tax you all to death. Because countries like Iran, they're literally communist. Their government, it would be defined as, I guess, like radical Islamic communism. These people are dangerous. That's why they hate ICE. That's why they hate President Trump. And that's why they hate America First policies. And that's why they get along so well with the elected Democrats in this country, so many of them at least.
Absolutely. And look, you can see this for yourself. We have a post here about Linda Sarsour, who is on video literally calling for jihad against President Trump, who campaigns with and advocates for the most radical groups in our country, including pro-Islamic terror groups and communist groups. And here she is making a max donation to Zoran Mandami, who wants to make New York City communist. So again, if this guy becomes the next mayor of New York City, I think that we are in store for another 9/11 terror attack. I asked Tom Homan the other day if we are at risk of having another 9/11 style attack in our country. He said yes, especially with the fact that we had 2 million getaways under the Biden administration who nobody can identify, nobody knows where they are, and they are living in our cities, living in our towns.
Probably somehow
living
taking our tax
in our
money, too.
country. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people show up to the parade tomorrow. And we have seen that there's been a global response in the aftermath of these airstrikes. Israel has actually shut down all of their embassies worldwide with extra protection to make sure that embassy officials are not attacked. Very serious situation going on right now. President Trump posted earlier today, and I just saw a report flash across my phone while we're live now that President Trump reportedly told some of the media that he thinks Israel's attack on Iran could potentially help him make a deal with Iran.
Yeah, and Iran's
To
learning
bring
the
them
hard
to the
way.
table. Because, again, they disrespected President Trump, Iran that is, and they have not come to the table. President Trump warned them, you have 60 days. And I guess they called his bluff. They tried to call his bluff. And you know what they say?
They learned the hard way. Donald
you know
Trump
what they
isn't
say?
Obama or
Fuck
Biden.
around, find out, right?
Yeah.
So they found out. They found out. And I believe we have a True Social post from President Trump. But earlier today, President Trump early this morning posted that there's going to be a lot more death and destruction in Iran. And the attacks from Israel are going to be even more sophisticated and more severe unless they come to the table and agree to a deal.
No, it's just remarkable.
And it's off the table now. It's off the table. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon.
blew it.
Israel just took out their top nuclear scientists, their nuclear facilities.
Iran Revolutionary Guard head. And yeah, they learned the hard way. Barack Hussein Obama, I guess is the right way to say it, and Joe Biden have been appeasing Iran and their foreign proxies for literally the last 20 plus years. And they thought Donald Trump was just like Obama and Hillary Clinton and Blinken and Biden, and they learned that Marco Rubio and Donald Trump, they don't play those games. And oh boy, the regime in Iran is suffering, and they're probably regretting their mistake of underestimating and not listening to and not respecting President Trump.
They're in a position of weakness right now, but it is going to be interesting to see if they try to activate terror cells here in the United States who are Iranian proxies, and whether or not those Iranian proxies are going to be acting in a coordinated manner, or we're going to see just a slew of lone wolf attacks by Hezbollah and Hamas sympathizers here in the United States. So if I were you, I would avoid public places this weekend. It's a great weekend to just stay home with your kids and relax with your pets, watch a movie, stay inside. because unfortunately the enemy is among us. And while mass deportations are being initiated, they're not happening at the speed that they need to. And we also have, as Tom Homan said, 2 million gotaways who they don't even know who these people are. It's not like they're on a list and they could keep an eye out for them and track them down. We don't know who these 2 million people are. So this weekend, I would say there's a heightened terror alert. Keep your eyes out. Before we continue to showing you some of this coverage from these continued LA riots, which are now spreading across the country, it was very interesting. Yesterday, they had the hearing in Congress up on Capitol Hill with the blue state governors who advocate for sanctuary cities. So you had Tim Walz. Remember him? Remember him?
He wants to be remembered so badly, but no one remembers him. He gets so sad.
He wants to be remembered so badly. We had Tim Walz, we had Kathy Hochul, and we had J.B. Pritzker up on the Hill yesterday being asked and testifying about their policies supporting open borders, defying immigration enforcement. And what was interesting about this as it was taking place is you had a senator, right? Senator Padilla, who was on the roster to attend the congressional baseball game the other night. You were there.
Yes, he was literally playing baseball. He was on the roster, and then he's magically in California the next morning. Well, he should have been at work, by the way. The Senate was still in session.
And then you have him get taken down by FBI because he decided to charge Kirstie Noem, our DHS secretary, during a press conference in Los Angeles. Let's not talk about how he must have had to have flown private. Somebody must have flown him on their private jet. Who paid for this private jet? Who flew him on their private jet? How did the senator get from Washington, D.C., where he played in the baseball game the night before, and then he must have had to take a super early morning flight on a private jet, and to get there at the time that he got there, there were no flights that early leaving out of Washington, D.C. So we have multiple issues here where the Democrats are essentially trying to stage what they call an unlawful detention and an unlawful arrest of a United States senator from the state of California who had time to play baseball during the congressional baseball game, have it teed up by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who didn't attend the hearing, right? He was asked to attend this hearing. He chose not to attend this hearing, where governors of blue states, sanctuary states, where they are harboring illegal aliens in violation of Trump-era federal immigration enforcement laws, magically, right? These Democrats just magically knew, coincidentally, in the middle of the hearing, because,
AOC,
you're in the middle of a
speaking, by the way.
hearing. You're in the middle of a hearing. How are you getting updates about what happened? If you're in the hearing and you already prepared for the hearing, how are you getting updates during a live hearing that a senator in California was arrested?
Here's the weirdest part about this, too. How did Alex Padilla get into the room? So did he have his, Senate pen on and use it to walk past security originally, then took it off and then charged the stage? Because you can't just get into a press conference like that unless you literally have your Senate pen or a press badge or something like that. So how did he get in? Did he have his, I think he literally had his Senate badge on. He walked in, took it off, and then ran off the stage to confuse the FBI agents because obviously DHS said yesterday he had no badge on. They had no idea they honest to God had no idea who he was. And if they knew he would have been a senator, I think it would have ended a little different. And everyone would have called it out.
It was obviously a stunt, and there's many, many, many examples that prove that it was a stunt, including the fact that he must have flown private, and he clearly knew what he was trying to do, because why would you fly back on a day when you're supposed to be in session?
Yes, they were voting.
They're supposed to work, right? So let's not talk about the fact that he clearly flew private. Did he make the taxpayers pay for that? Are we paying for his flight so that he can go campaign? Because that's an FEC violation. You're not allowed to campaign against anybody with the tax dollars. You have to use your campaign account. So was he campaigning when he decided to take a private jet and fly to California to attack President Trump? What was he doing exactly? Either way, it's very improper. We have that full video, but before we show you the full video of Senator Alex Padilla being removed from that DHS press conference, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that, of course, is Kirk Elliott Precious Metals.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. The President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We fight. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com/Loomer to learn how you can safely grow your retirement portfolio with precious metals.
We want to thank Kirk Elliott Precious Metals for being a loyal and devoted sponsor of Loomer Unleashed. Please be sure that you check them out at kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer, or you can call them at 720-605-3900. Again, that number is 720-605-3900. Let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. Now is a perfect time to invest in precious metals, gold, silver. There's a lot of uncertainty with the US dollar right now, and you can protect yourself and you can protect your financial wealth and your financial future by investing in precious metals. So they've created a very nice landing page for the viewers of Loomer Unleashed. Again, that's kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. You can see that they have an established contact form where you can reach out to them, and a trusted representative at Kirk Elliott Precious Metals will get back to you to answer all your questions, all your comments, and all your concerns. So again, be sure you visit them, kepm.com/Loomer, or call 720-605-3900 and let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. We're going to have Dr. Kirk from Kirk Elliott Precious Metals on the show next week on Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So be sure that you tune in to Loomer Unleashed next week for another live episode where we will be having a conversation with Dr. Kirk. He's got a lot of updates for you, and we will be opening up questions to the chat so you can take that opportunity to ask Dr. Kirk yourself, the founder and CEO of Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, any questions that you have about investing in precious metals.
Oh, nice. That'll be a great show.
Yeah, we love Dr. Kirk. Great guy. All right, these riots are just getting crazier. As I said before, we're going to show you this video. You may have already seen it. It's viral. The Democrats are using it to, once again, perpetuate this lie that Donald Trump is a dictator or a king. But the president, I guess he was joking, but he kind of wasn't joking. It was actually quite funny. Yesterday was asked during a press conference whether or not he views himself as a king, because they're calling these protests this weekend, and we're going to get into these protests too after we show you the clip, the No Kings protests. And President Trump had a brilliant reply. He said, I don't feel like a king, because what kind of king has to ask other people to do what they want, right? He was joking about how, but it also wasn't a joke. He was joking, but he kind of wasn't joking, where he said, oh, I have to call Speaker Johnson and
Schumer
and Thune and basically say, you guys got to get this through. Please don't let me down. And he's right. If he was a king, the king would have the ultimate say, and he wouldn't be needing to be pulling teeth right now and dealing with obstructionists in the Republican Party like Senator Rand Paul and Thomas Massey.
Oh, and don't forget the winner known as Chip Roy.
Yeah, Chip Roy.
He's an interesting one.
Opposing the big, beautiful bill, right? Opposing the big, beautiful bill, as we've seen. Opposing the big, beautiful bill. If Trump was a king, he would just be able to get the big, beautiful bill passed. So we are going to show you this video now of Senator Alex Padilla from the state of California being removed from this press conference. Clip number 7.
And balancing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands up.
How many of our ICE agents have been docked?
On the ground. Hands behind your back. If you let my hands go ahead, stand behind my back.
All right.
Other hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here. I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI rights.
Political LARPing at its finest.
Yeah, exactly. Just political grifting. They're trying to say that President Trump is a dictator, and the Democrats can pretend like they want these protests to be peaceful, but there's nothing peaceful about them. And if they actually cared about our national security, especially today in the aftermath of these airstrikes on Iran, knowing how many Iranian proxies are in the United States and how many Islamic jihadists are participating in these riots, and we're not just saying this, right? They're showing up in Palestinian Kafia. President Trump said no masks, and all these people are showing up in Kafia. We told you here months ago that the summer of love from 2020 was going to be the summer of jihad, and that's exactly what it is. We call it the summer of jihad because these people are behaving just like the Black Lives Matter rioters and Antifa from the summer of love in 2020, except it's got an Islamic twist, right? So it's the summer of jihad. And these representatives, whether it's Alex Padilla or it's Congresswoman Jayapal, they are calling ICE agents Gestapo, suggesting that they are white supremacists and Nazis. And in a shocking display of ignorance and display of, a lack of support for law and order, despite a party that likes to screech from the mountaintops that they care about law and order, right? They care about law and order so much, but they're supporting illegal aliens. Someone please explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. She actually called for all of the illegal aliens who have been arrested by ICE to be released back into society, which is shocking because the people who are being picked up in these raids in California are child molesters, murderers, human traffickers, terrorists. Okay, a lot of them are child rapists. So it's the position now of the Democrat Party that we need to allow for child rapists to roam free in our society so that they can prey on American children and rape children, all while not just being child rapists, but also being illegal aliens.
Yeah, and Jay Paul is not just some congressional Democrat making some crazy far left accusation.
She's not a fringe Democrat either. People say, it's the squad, it's these radical members.
She has power.
She has a lot of power.
She is literally the ranking top, #1 House Democrat. And guess what? The subcommittee of immigration enforcement. So we have President Kamala right now, and the Democrats controlled the House. She would be in charge of our immigration. Jay Paul, the lady who went and said abolish ICE, and literally after she spoke to these protesters, they blocked the road.
Member.
Yeah, she's the most important one.
So if we lose the House in 2026, which we're on track to do, unfortunately, look, the Republicans are not fighting enough to solidify and codify President Trump's agenda. This woman, who's the ranking member on the subcommittee for immigration enforcement in the House of Representatives, she is going to basically be in charge. We're going to have a lame duck Trump presidency because the Democrats are going to have control, just like they took control after the first 2 years of the Trump administration, because we're watching a repeat of the first Trump administration. Some things are better, true, but there's still issues with personnel. And also, we're seeing the same issues with the Republican Party. A weak speaker. Okay, we had Paul Ryan, and now we have Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is Paul Ryan with the Bible. That's all he is. He's just Paul Ryan with the Bible. That's all that guy is. He is literally Paul Ryan with the Bible. And so we're not really going to see enthusiasm for voter turnout. President Trump is not at the top of the ticket. There's a lot of people who are first-time voters who have no interest in participating in primary elections. They have no interest in participating in midterm elections. They were motivated to come out because Donald Trump was at the top of the ticket. So not only is Donald Trump not going to be at the top of the ticket, but we don't really have Republicans supporting the president and his agenda. So Republicans currently are suppressing their own voter turnout ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. And it's going to be bad. Let's go ahead and play this clip of Rep. Jayapal, who was born in India. Again, another foreigner. We have,
interesting.
And this is a problem too. We need to have a conversation about making it illegal for foreigners to serve in the United States Congress. Muslim Ilhan Omar, refusing to condemn acts of jihad, refusing to condemn terrorist organizations, refusing to say that she will support legislation to designate groups like the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. And now, what did we have? We had Shri Thanadar.
Oh, yes,
who can't
remember
even
him.
speak English. The guy literally walks around like he has like a dead raccoon on his head. He's got the worst wig I've ever seen in my life. Okay, it looks like he killed one of the animals in his testing labs where he was doing all these abusive animal tests and animal testing where he left all these animals to die. True story, look it up. From India. Okay, he's from India. And then Rep. Jayapal, who is literally calling for illegals to be released by ICE back into our society, who's the ranking member on the committee in Congress for immigration enforcement.
She'll be subpoenaing us when we lose the house.
We have to just play this clip number 1. It's so shocking. You have to see it for yourself.
We are here to say free the immigrants that have been arrested.
The immigrants that have been arrested.
We are here to say end the ICE raids.
End the ICE raids.
And the ICE raids, so all the child molesters and criminals and terrorists can be in society. Yeah, free the illegal child rapists. We want to see more child rape. It's the position of the Democrat Party that we support child rapists.
The funniest part.
I wish I was making it up. I mean, it's really fucked up that I have to even be sitting here, and I'm sure somebody's going to clip a clip of me going, free the child rapist, but that's literally what they're saying. I mean, you might as well just say free the child rapist, because when we see mugshots of criminal illegal aliens who are arrested for gang raping, 12-year-old girls or raping 4-year-old girls or human trafficking little girls across the border, and Tom Homan has told us multiple times that they have found up to 10 semen samples in one girl, which means that these girls are being gang raped on their way into our country, raped by men. There's people pretending to be the parents of these little girls who they are trafficking. Over 500,000 unaccompanied minors lost. We don't even know where these innocent poor children are, who were trafficked across open borders under the Biden administration. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have no idea where 500,000 minor children went. They were trafficked. Who knows? Maybe they're sex slaves all around the world right now. Maybe they're child prostitutes.
What's really messed up is Jay Paul probably knows where they are. She gets intelligence briefings because she's the ranking member on immigration enforcement. And what's really messed up about our little friend from India who says she's from Washington State, but no, she's from India.
She's from India. And it's really important that people understand where these representatives are actually from. Because just like I don't understand why there is a requirement for the president of the United States to be born here in the United States. You have to be born here in America to be the president, but then we allow people to serve in Congress and the Senate who were not born in this country. Shouldn't it extend to all of Congress?
That would make sense, right?
I don't even think you should be allowed to run for federal office or state office if you weren't born in this country. I mean, we just saw in Minnesota a few days ago, look, and you can look this up, it was absolutely shocking, a case of a state lawmaker who admitted on the floor of the Minnesota legislature that she's an illegal alien and that her family fabricated their immigration paperwork to come to this country. How do we have illegal aliens serving in positions of elected office in our country?
And what's really messed
up... And how
up,
many more are there, right? Like that's one lady who said that she is literally an illegal alien. I wish we had the clip. Perhaps we do. I know that I tweeted it, but the fact of the matter is that this is a real story of an illegal alien in Minnesota who's a lawmaker in the Minnesota legislature admitting that she and her family are here illegally. And yet she is making laws that are impacting our country in a state that has been completely overrun by illegal immigrants and a state that has one of the largest populations of ISIS terrorists, according to FBI statistics.
Yeah, and what's so crazy is these Democrats never want to answer. We really confronted Jay Paul after she said, release the criminals. And she ran, and her protesters were blocking the camera like they always do. But yeah, they know their policies are unpopular, because if they thought they were popular, she wouldn't be afraid to answer our questions. So this is really messed up. This lady from India who says she's from Washington, but she's not, is encouraging riots and then refuses to answer totally legitimate questions from us about, hey, why are you encouraging riots? And then her little followers, who, by the way, everyone in that crowd who Jay Paul was speaking to, guess who they were with? I kid you not, they're federal union employees. So American Federation of Government Employees.
The National Education Association.
The National Education Association.
Randy Weingarten's organization, which oversees the public union of public school teachers. So these are the people that are educating your children. So, if you needed another reason to take your kids out of public school, I think the union officials for the NEA standing next to the ranking member on the Committee in Congress for Immigration Enforcement saying, release the child rapists who have been arrested by ICE. I mean, this is what they want.
And
if it worked for them, they would
camera.
allow for child rapists to come out of the jails, out of the detention centers, into society, and into the schools to rape your children. And we already know that this is not an exaggeration because they already made proposals in some of these blue states. If you recall earlier this year, I thought that it was like a Babylon Bee article to have illegal aliens teaching American students.
Oh, they're all for it. The teachers love
They
it.
actually advocated for this. Union members, and you can look it up, in certain states, blue states, were advocating for illegal aliens to be hired as teachers to teach American students.
That's insane. And all I know is I know most schools in America are out, but I know some get out like this week. If your child's teacher was absent this week and you know they're in Washington, D.C., I'd pull them out of that class because they might have been here protesting with Jay Paul and screaming for open borders. Like I said, remarkable. I saw so many blue shirts of National Education Association members. So that means literally teachers, probably some of them
And we
skipped
have
work
videos.
to come here.
We have video footage to prove this. Let's go ahead and play clip number 4.
We the people! We the people! We the people! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice!
That woman controls the union for teachers.
Her and Randy.
And she works with Randy Weingarten.
Yep.
And they are foaming at the mouth. We have to play that clip one more time because you need to internalize this level of craziness. And if your child is in public school, watch this clip one more time and have a conversation with your spouse or your partner tonight about whether or not it is a good decision to keep your child in public school.
We the people! We the people! We the people! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice!
Oh, and by the way, this isn't the first time this lady and a little group have supported illegal immigrants. On May Day, which is May 1st, and it's like a communist holiday, we literally captured video of people wearing red CASA shirts who love illegal immigrants. CASA is an organization that loves illegal immigrants. But long story short, we get them coming off the buses in D.C. They start blocking the roads. Laura, I don't understand why the illegal immigrants always want to block the roads, but that's just what they do. And they walk past the National Education Association
should be run
building.
over, honestly.
Yeah.
They need to have a law like Florida. And look, this is a rare moment where you're going to see me praise Governor Ron DeSantis, but the bill that he signed allowing for Floridians to literally run over rioters if they block traffic, that should be a federal law. You should be allowed to run over protesters.
I agree. And what's really crazy,
I think you should be allowed to shoot them, too. I really do. I mean, look, I'm not advocating for violence, but I really do believe that, and everybody has a right to protest, but I really do believe that if you are in your vehicle and you are being surrounded by rioters who are breaking your windows, and you are being surrounded by violent protesters who are putting your life in danger, you should be allowed to shoot to kill. I really do. I support a shoot to kill policy. And I think that a lot of these police officers should be allowed to shoot to kill too, because these videos are horrific. Rioters throwing bricks at cops' heads on the highway. A brick at a fast enough speed can literally kill you. And if you get hit in the head with a heavy object, it can cause you to have a brain bleed and you can die. You might not die instantly, but there have been instances of people getting hit in the head with objects, having luggage that falls out of the compartment on airplanes, hitting them in the head, and then they die 2 days later from a brain bleed. So imagine a brick.
Yeah, that's
something
not good.
intentionally. People die from having objects accidentally hit their heads. On accident, right? This is deliberate.
And America's teachers are supporting this behavior.
Yeah, and
they have
I support a
for
shoot to
long
kill
time.
policy. I don't know if you do, but
No, I do.
I believe that
I'm
police
involved.
officers and federal law enforcement should be allowed to shoot and kill rioters who endanger their lives.
These riders are very well trained. I mean, we've seen them personally. I'll never forget last summer when obviously Kamala and I guess Elizabeth Warren, that's what people say, she was in charge too. All these pro-Hamas rioters came to town because House Republicans were meeting with Netanyahu trying to, end the war. But they didn't want that. So literally these people, there's like a 200-foot flagpole at Union Station. They climbed to the top of it, ripped down the American flag, caught it on fire, put like the Hamas flag on top. And you got to be like really trained to do this. Like I said, this is like a 200-foot tall flagpole, very narrow. So like these rioters, they're not just like, I mean, some of them are just some random idiots on the street, but a lot of these people are really trained.
Now we're going to show these clips right now. Let's go ahead and play clip number 5 so you can see firsthand the rioters throwing bricks at the heads of police officers.
Get down! Get down!
Oh! Oh, he got fucked. Oh! Fuck yeah! Oh my God, he got fucked. Oh, he's fucked.
Gotcha, bitch!
And these are not just illegal aliens or radical leftists. These are jihadist Muslim protesters who are, trying to partner with Marxists to stage an actual insurrection in our country. Not a fake insurrection like what they say took place on January 6th, but a real insurrection. I mean, we have a lot of video footage of this. Let's go ahead and play clip number 22. And again, these are clips from all across the country. This is happening all across the country. Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, all over. And they're going to take place this weekend in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, where we're going to be reporting live. So be sure that you're following me on X at Laura Loomer and Charles at The Charles Downs, and also our main Loomer Unleashed account. And it just surpassed over 100,000 followers. So thanks to everybody that followed our account. But we are going to be on the ground covering the military parade, which means we're going to be covering the protests as well, since all the protesters are going to be here. Let's just go ahead and play clips number 22 and 21 back to back. These are mass jihadists confronting NYPD and protesters at anti-ICE rallies in New York City chanting "Globalize the Intifada."
You're allowed to curse on me, that's fine. It's shaking the valley, it's going to result in arrest.
Fuck you! Your grandparents know you want them deported? Fuck you! 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 Fu Mexico to Gaza! Globalize the Intifada! Palestine to Mexico! All these laws have got to go! Palestine to Mexico!
That is a jihadist wearing a Hamas bandana and a keffiyeh in New York City, where a jihadist is now campaigning to be the next mayor. So mark
It's like
my
they
word.
planned it or something.
Yeah, mark my word, if he becomes the next mayor, Zoran Mandami, if he becomes the next mayor of New York City, there is going to be another 9/11 style attack. Clip number 20, protesters chanting from Palestine to Mexico, the border wall has got to go. You can see more evidence of this Islamic infiltration. So they're not just regular protesters. This is an Islamist movement, further reiterating the need to double down on the designation of the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization and the need for people to exercise precautions throughout cities across our country over the next few days, where these Iranian proxies and Hamas and Hezbollah, both of which are Iranian proxies, tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, of course, are going to be protesting. And nothing is happening to these people who are literally supporting acts of terrorism on the streets of America. That bandana is a Hamas bandana. And we have other videos too that I've been tweeting throughout the week of protesters, rioters, waving the Mexican flag while wearing Hamas bandanas and armbands. Let's go ahead and play clip number 20.
Hey, why are you dressed like that?
I rode a motorcycle here.
And make no mistake, these people are violent and they are encouraging assassination attempts on elected officials and people who oppose their agenda. And if you needed any more evidence of this, the fact that they are dressing up to show support for Luigi Mangione, who's currently standing trial for assassinating and shooting at point blank the CEO of United Healthcare on the streets of New York City, where a lot of these protests are taking place. We have videos of these protesters dressed up like Luigi Mangione. So let's go ahead and play clip number 17.
All of this, you are seized, you are chosen, you are not here by accident. No se equivoca. God placed you here in this time, in this day, for a purpose.
I like your costume. Want to describe it? Yeah. Down with ice, right?
And I just want to remind everybody, due to a lack of enthusiasm within the Republican Party and a lack of support for President Trump's agenda by Republican officials who are slow to codify President Trump's agenda, when we lose the House, Hakeem Jeffries is going to become the next Speaker of the House. And no, Hakeem Jeffries does not condemn any of these violent attacks on law enforcement or any of these pro-open border riots that we're seeing across the country. I actually caught up with Hakeem Jeffries on the steps of the United States Capitol yesterday and asked him whether or not he was going to condemn this, and he decided to spend his time supporting Gavin Newsom and attacking President Trump instead. Let's go ahead and play clip number 10. Hey, Congressman Jeffries, question for you really quick. Why are you enabling the open border riots that are being perpetuated by Democrat activists across the country? Did you see last night that these people set several NYPD cars on fire?
The governor of California is doing a tremendous job, and Donald Trump
and House Republicans have nothing to say to us about law and order.
But
on these very steps.
How do you? But you don't care about law and order. Your constituents are setting police cars on fire.
Hundreds of them.
They are rioting in support of Hamas and open borders, and you refuse to condemn them. You refuse to condemn the assault on NYPD officers in your own district.
Absolutely shocking, but I guess it's not unbelievable because, well, that's what the Democrats support. Before we close out, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that, of course, is Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. Let's cut through the noise. The economy's shaking, banks are failing, inflation's eating your savings, but gold and silver, they've held value through every single crisis. But don't get burned by buying the wrong kind. Those shiny coins and ads on TV, they carry a high price and high fees. And when you try to sell, you get less. That's why Dr. Kirk Elliott does it differently. With real bullion, no games. Be sure you visit kepm.com/loomer and get the straight answers and purchase precious metals from a reliable and trusted source. Protect what matters before the next shock hits. Visit kepm.com/loomer or call 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900. Charles, we are going to be up on the Hill tomorrow outside of the White House, documenting, reporting on the military parade. It's President Trump's birthday. It's Father's Day weekend. It's Flag Day. It should be a patriotic day, but these communists and these jihadists just want to suck all the patriotism out of our country, and they want us to just be a miserable people in a miserable society surrounded by violent Democrat activists. What can we expect from these protests? Because there are multiple groups that have decided to protest, including 5051, which we have reported on extensively, Indivisible, which is the group that organized a lot of the violent Tesla takedown protests, and also a group called Refuse Fascism, which is actually going to be in Washington, D.C., and Code Pink.
Yeah, so here's what's so interesting. So 50501 and Indivisible, like the two groups that are kind of like comprised of former Bernie Sanders staffers, they put out statements saying they're not going to be in Washington, D.C. But the group Refuse Fascism, who have held past anti-Trump rallies in the past here in D.C., where we took footage of people holding up 8647 signs and literally punching Secret Service agents. No joke. Literally punching Secret Service agents. I'm sure a lot of you remember that video. They are busing people into Washington, D.C., and they say they're going to get here at 1 p.m. tomorrow. And previous, I guess, busting anti-Trump protests in Washington, D.C. featured people, one, radical Islamic women wearing the full burqa, and two, people coming off buses, waving the Palestine flag, and then eventually in the rally, waving the Hamas flag. So these are not good people coming into D.C., and it's telling that the No Kings, I guess you can call them grifters, because these No Kings people are making so much money off these protests, that they're saying they're not in D.C. so they can, I guess, absolve blame for one, Refuse Fascism and Antifa and the Party for Social Liberation try to disrupt the parade, that they brought their members in on a bus. Oh, gee, I wonder who paid for that. But that's kind of a quick rundown on what's about to happen tomorrow, and it's going to be very interesting.
Well, luckily you and I are going to be there to document it, and be sure that if you're watching, you are following me on X at Laura Loomer. Be sure that you're following me on X at Loomer Unleashed, and follow Charles at the Charles Downs. We are live right now, so please be sure that you share this live link. Rumble.com/Laura Loomer is where you can follow my Rumble channel. Be sure that if you want to support the work we're doing here at Loomer Unleashed, that you subscribe to my Locals channel, loomer.locals.com, $7 a month or $70 per year. You can also subscribe to me on X. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you will be following our on-the-ground coverage this weekend, live from Washington, D.C. We'll see you next week for another episode of Loomer Unleashed. Have a great weekend, and happy Father's Day.